Hey everybody, this video is part of our full-length The Onside Kick podcast. You can find that on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes. You can pretty much find it anywhere, so we don't care where you listen. Just stick around and check it out.
This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? The Mark Weber here, and you're listening to The Onside Kick. I am joined this week, as I have not been in a long time, by Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
Is Dave. Welcome, Dave. So this podcast, you might notice there's no Ricky Widmer. I should have said the elephant in the room. That would have been fun. People in the YouTube comment section would have enjoyed that. If you're listening on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever it is that you listen to, thank you. Thank you for checking us out. If you're watching on YouTube, hello. Nice to see you guys. We're going to be kind of in a weird situation this week because there's really... We record on Mondays, is the way to say it.
Let's just be honest.
And it's draft week.
Yep.
So, as much as we would love to talk about the draft, which I'm sure you guys would like, by the time stuff gets to your ears, it might be too late. So we will talk about the fallers, the people who very well may fall, whether it's out of the first round, whether it's, not even getting drafted at all, who knows. We'll talk about some of those guys, some of the big names. We'll also, of course, talk about some stuff with schedules. We're going to bring up the Chicago Bears because if Dave Oster's on this podcast, we might as well talk about the Chicago Bears.
I mean, I'm not super biased for the Bears, but I'll take it.
Yeah, it's a good excuse. I kind of wanted to talk about the Bears anyways because I'm excited about that 0-16 record coming up. It's going to be fun. And then finally, we will go ahead and we're going to talk about the sophomores in the NFL. People who got drafted last year, we're going to talk about where we think they might end up this coming year. But first of all, to kind of start it all, I want to talk about the people who will fall. And part of the reason this is coming up, of course, with Jabrill Peppers having it's an inconclusive?
It's diluted sample.
Diluted sample. Yep. Basically meaning his pee, you couldn't tell much from.
He drank a lot of water.
Yeah.
And there was a report. Of course, everybody got their sources. He was sick on the flight, so they gave him a lot of water. And the fact he had to be there back-to-back days for the combine, for both drills, I understand, So both he and, I want to say someone else both had the same thing. It might have been Reuben Foster.
One of the things that I find interesting about this, especially with all the marijuana issues with the NFL, is they constantly are very concerned about it. It's kind of the thing where we see it with Tunzel last year, and that's a different situation.
Yeah.
With the gas mask bong on his head, and that caused him to be from going to a top 3 pick potentially to falling quite a bit out of the top 10. And these kind of dumb mistakes or whatever it might be can really drop you out of huge amounts of money and huge position. Although in some situations it might not be the worst thing to maybe not go to one of these lesser teams at the top.
Look, if your strategy is to look like an idiot so you don't get drafted by the Browns,
it might not be such a bad thing.
The
hard thing is the Browns
didn't stop him from drafting Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, right.
And you're right. The Browns have a lot of picks.
Yeah, they are very there. You have a good chance of getting drafted by the Browns. So, I mean, I think we can agree Jabrill Peppers there's a good chance he's falling.
Yeah. It's like a problem on top of a question mark now because I don't think he actually is someone who probably is like a habitual smoker of weed. I think I believe more in the story because of him, because of the history of Michigan, because of how that organization or that school is run. Yeah. So I'm more inclined to believe him that, he was just conditioning problem. He's had cramps earlier this year, so it's not super surprising to hear that he's just drinking down gallons of water in advance.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that. I mean, I actually would somewhat believe the fact that someone who is, maybe he truly was sick, who knows, but someone who's going to go these back-to-back days, sure, they want to stay hydrated. They want to stay on their best shape. The other thing is he apparently was needing to bulk up.
Yeah.
The easy way to bulk up is...
water weight.
Yep, water weight. Maybe eat a lot of carbs. Eat some pasta. And it's one of those things where, too, that one of the quick ways to lose a pound, if you're ever in like a weight loss challenge or you're a wrestler who needs to make weight or whatever, is, you run and you pee a lot. Yeah. Basically, you'll lose a little bit of weight.
Now you see the guys in MMA do it all the time, and they lose like 5-6 pounds in a day. It's scary.
Yeah, exactly. Just got to get right to where you need to be. So, I mean, I'm almost willing to buy this one, to be honest, that it's not a drug issue here.
But the problem is it does technically count as a strike for him. So he is in the program already before he's even been drafted.
Yeah.
So he's got 2 years. I think he'll be part of the program with one strike. If after 2 years he's cleared of it and he can move on and be like free of whatever. But I think the real problem is like people already didn't know what to do with him.
Yeah.
So now they have like an easy like cop out of we really shouldn't draft him in the first round because now he's got this against him too.
Yeah. And just last week on the Onside Kick we talked about specific guys who we thought were overrated, and I brought Jabrill up a little bit. So it's really an unfortunate situation for him because he does have exactly what you're saying is it's an excuse not to draft him.
Yeah.
And he's a guy who was a bubble first rounder who's certainly, I think, likely to fall out of the first round at this point. I know you have a good faller as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, I've got two. The easy one is Reuben Foster because it's another guy who had a diluted sample, but Reuben Foster just has had the health problems coming out about him are kind of scary, and then all the other stories about Alabama linebackers get used up in college, and when they get to the pros, you've already seen their peak, and it's just downhill from there. So I think he is kind of one of the most interesting things because talent-wise, leadership-wise, it's everything you want on the football field, but now all these questions come up, and now it's like, how far are you going to go down? Because they were talking, anywhere from 10 to now 30 to 35 even.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to think about.
I think he's one of those guys where if you are at the top of the second, you're just absolutely salivating of please let him fall because I will draft him in a heartbeat. You say what you want about, an Alabama linebacker, but these are some of the top tier college players. They can certainly play. I know I would be thrilled as much as my personal team, the Chicago Bears, are set at linebacker. They really could not use another person even on the roster here. I think we just
if he sort of fell to us, you're right. I wouldn't be disappointed.
Right? I mean, what are you going to do?
Right?
You can be like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care. Whoever we draft, we'll take Reuben Foster. And I think most teams are going to be that way once you get past the second, or once you get into the second round. I really kind of, I don't know, something about a Shane Ray situation kind of falls into my mind with this one of everybody thinking he's going to absolutely fall, and then some team says, no way in hell we're letting this guy fall any further. And that was a situation where the Denver Broncos even traded up because they were scared that someone else had the same mindset.
Yeah.
Speaking of Alabama, before we get to your second guy, do you believe on Jonathan Allen? Do you really believe he's going to be a faller because of the arthritis?
I feel like it's blown out of proportion, and I think it comes down to expectations. I was talking to like Ricky and Sean off the show about this, and if I can get 5-6 years of production out of a player at his level, I'm happy. I mean, the thing is, arthritis, yes, it's something that will affect him throughout his career, and it's something that he can manage, but you'll never really get rid of. So, I mean, to that end, the end game already. But if you can get great production out of him for a short span of time, I would take that, honestly. I mean, if the thing is with this draft, after 1, between 2 and 10 is a question mark. So I think Allen, I couldn't see him going past like 8, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I actually am pretty much of the same mindset that I don't really see a reason to be scared. I mean, sure, maybe top 3 you're a little bit nervous because you want somebody who's going to be there forever.
Yeah, if you want like a 15-year starter or something, sure, like that would be amazing. Those are fairly rare from a player standpoint. But if you can get an excellent producer who, at his level in college, playing against the top level competition in the SEC, he was able to dominate the line and absolutely be a force. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, that's a sexy pick right there to me.
Oh yeah, definitely, and. It's going to be a better option than say Solomon Thomas, who's the other guy who's you're going to maybe insert in there. Who I know that's different positions probably. Solomon Thomas, people are shifting him over to defensive end instead of on the inside. But when it comes to this arthritis thing, I mean, yes, it's an issue, and yes, it's something he's going to live with. But if you use preventative care and things like that, just have him go see a chiropractor, and it's going to make life a lot easier for him. Not amazing. It's never going to go away. It never gets better.
It's manageable, though. That's the thing. It's not like it's, career ending now. It's not. That's not the case.
Yeah.
So
I don't completely buy him falling either. But I know you got another good one.
All right. Fun story time. Caleb Brantley. He is someone who was mocked anywhere going from the 2nd to the 4th round. Now possibly not getting drafted at all. There are rumors of GMs already coming out and saying it. This, of course, due to a recent altercation between himself and a female in Gainesville. And what happened, according to the police report, is they got into an argument. The woman hit him in the face. He pushed her out of the way, and with question mark force that no one can really determine. No charges were being pressed at this time, and no complaints, no nothing. So it initially blew up as a huge thing because people thought it was another incident similar to like Ray Rice or Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
But that seems to be wildly out of proportion at this time. Now the police report came out. So still not a great look for you a week before the draft. And
where anything will cost you money.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's just
the honor of being so highly drafted.
It's just stupid. I mean, if I was in college getting ready to get drafted, I would either be at some like off-site training program for like the entire time.
Yeah.
Or I would literally lock myself away in like a bunker somewhere because there's no good. It can only get worse from here. Anything I do will only devalue my stock. So
yeah, and it's so interesting because you have some of these guys, and he's probably one of those guys who might, I don't know, fall into this category where you have these guys who they'll have their agents or something pay for them to go and be a part of some facility, some training thing that you're talking about.
Yep.
And when you're in this situation, like you really just have to buckle down and don't let anything mess this up. I mean, we talked about it. We'll get a little grim here for a second, but we talked about it before the podcast, talking about Aaron Hernandez, a guy who had so much going for him. He already made millions. He could have retired and done nothing for the rest of his life and been set. And of course, we all know what happened with Aaron Hernandez and why he was in jail. So it's the kind of thing where you just sit there, you see these guys, or maybe it's one of the many players who, weed bust after weed bust by the NFL, and all of a sudden they lose that thing. And that's a different situation, obviously, in severity, but the NFL still punishes it.
Someone needs to come out with a service to be like, not nannies, but basically nannies for NFL players or soon to be NFL players. Or your job is to protect them from themselves because they clearly are not responsible enough to do it.
Yeah, don't you guys have somebody?
Jerry Jones hired 4 guys to follow Des Bryant around and be his official people to make sure he can't do anything.
It's 9 p.m. We got to get home.
How isn't this thing more popular? There should be a service out there selling this to agents to NFL teams.
Right?
If you could do that, I mean, that seems like a genius move.
I will just babysit your player for the next 5 months until he gets drafted.
Right?
And it perfectly makes sense because anything you do, I mean, this whole thing could get thrown out of court. She could come out and say, I'm not saying this is the case, but she could come out and say, oh, sorry, I made it up. But it doesn't matter. The damage is already there.
Right.
The question marks are there for him as the player. It's the same thing when we, look at La'el Collins and having something come up in the question marks because of the timing of how close it is to the draft, and then all of a sudden a guy goes undrafted. And I think that Caleb Brantley is in this situation where, hell, he might go undrafted.
Yeah, and it's kind of a big question mark to me because I'm on one end, knowing what I know about the incident officially from the police, and I'll never know the whole story, of course, but do I feel comfortable with my team drafting him? I think there's kind of a line in the sand where it's after X round, I'd feel okay.
Yeah.
After the 5th round, maybe if we toss a 6 or a 7, I'd be okay knowing that, hey, if something worse comes out, we can cut him and there's no fallback on me. But at the same time, if he gets, I don't want to see a player who obviously is a bad person get rewarded. And I think that's the big morality line that a lot of GMs have to find their line.
Yeah. And I think that's a hard thing to do because obviously you had the balance of someone like Jerry Jones who says, I don't care. If you play and we win, we're good. And then you have a guy like, Bill Belichick who says, I'll try and give you a second chance. You mess it up, you're out of here immediately.
Yeah, John Elway recently just came out and spoke about how he's drafting the right kind of guys. Mm-hmm. And he's very critical about, the young men who he wants to, it's not just about football, it's about helping them grow to become great men and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's awesome. That's the right thing you want to hear. On the other hand, no disrespect, but the Cincinnati Bengals kind of have a thing for drafting thugs.
Right.
Like, they've drafted a lot of players, and a lot of those players have police records now.
Yeah, and it's kind of a thing where you kind of like the attitude in certain situations.
Right. As long as you can keep it between the lines.
Yeah, and then other times you throw away a playoff game at the end because nobody can keep their attitudes in check.
Yeah.
So it's a tough balance in that situation. Are there any other guys that you think might be fallers, even if it's not necessarily based on a police record or something like that?
In this draft, the only real question for me comes back to how early is the second quarterback going to go? And I don't know if I want to call it a faller because it's more of a game, because it's like, okay, we know Trubisky's going to go first at this point. Like, between all of the quarterbacks, he will be the first one selected. After that, I don't know. A lot of people are buying into the fact that there's going to be a run on quarterbacks in the mid-late first round. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's going to be guys like Kaiser and maybe Mahomes are going to fall. I think a lot of people are expecting them to go like 3 quarterbacks in the first round, maybe 4 quarterbacks, like crazy stuff. I feel like they're second rounders, and to be honest, the difference between someone like a Kaiser and the next 3 guys behind him, not that big.
Yeah.
Honestly. So I feel like guys who... I'll just say Kaiser. Screw it. I'll just come out and hang.
Yeah, I mean, with Kaiser, people are going to throw, at least in mock draft world, people are throwing Mahomes above him all the time.
But Kaiser, he's smart like Brady and big like Cam, right?
Yeah, right. He's got, was it? Yeah, it was Cam Newton, I think he said.
Yeah.
But he's this guy who... Kaiser Bean, he's this guy who has these kind of inconsistencies in his decision-making, stuff like that, and a lot of teams aren't going to want anything to do with that. But he's this kind of forgotten-about quarterback right now.
Yeah, for someone who played at such a well-known college, Notre Dame, you got a lot of limelight just for playing there, even if you're not in like the big games. That's why I think like Watson's stock is crazy, because his best 2 games were championship games.
Yeah.
There's no knocking that. Kaiser, I think, is the one who's going to fall. And like you nailed it. I mean, it's inconsistencies, and I mean the comment really is just nothing more than a funny joke at this point.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, really, kid, really?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I even honestly think to flip to the other quarterback, Watson. I'm not saying he's going to fall the first round or anything like that, but there is potential for him to fall far back in the first round if Trubisky's the first quarterback that's taken, and the Jets take him, or maybe even the Jets pass on him, and he doesn't go until the Browns at 12, there's a chance that Watson falls pretty far until somebody maybe trades up for him, or somebody grabs him and stashes him behind a Big Ben or something like that.
It's true. It's true.
So it'll certainly be interesting. Obviously, you guys can let us know down below in the comment section here on YouTube. If you are listening to this through iTunes or anywhere else, you can get at us at Most Valuable Pod on Twitter. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that sub button. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and don't worry, there is plenty more where that came from. You guys can check it out right over here. Click that video, start watching it, and just stick around on Most Valuable Podcasts.